Hey VC, how you doing? John here. This video is going to be probably the longest one I've ever made, and I've been wanting to make this for a long time, and I've been putting it off for there's a very specific reason, but I finally decided that I can't put it off any longer, and I'll explain the reason that I've not made it previously when I get to the relevant point. So I want to take you back to 1980, and when I was in the sixth form, and if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, the sixth form is the 2 years that you are in before you go to college or university, if you go through a conventional route like I did. Now, they do say that your school days are the best years of your life. Well, they weren't for me until I got in the sixth form, and that's when it just, I started enjoying it, started liking, almost a different group of friends in some respects, and all music started hitting me from different angles and all different types of stuff. So in 1980 I was 17, and towards the end of the year a friend of mine bought Born to Run, and he brought it to school and I listened to it, and it was okay. It didn't sort of really stand out to me. And then on October the 17th, I've got my laptop down here, I keep referring to October the 17th, 1980, this album came out, The River. Now, LJ in his videos often refers to the music to listen to in the Camaro. Well, there weren't many Camaros around the parts that I was at, but one of my mates who had a Ford Capri, and that was the car of choice if you were 17 in those days, and we had this on heavy rotation, so I went and bought it, and there was 3 or 4 of us that were just got into this album massively, and fairly quickly afterwards I went and bought Born to Run and fell in love with Thunder Road, which is my all-time favourite song. And then over the next 12 months I variously acquired and bought, I've got two copies of Greetings from Oxford Park. One's the original UK release, which I didn't get that long ago, with a gatefold on the front, and the other one's the one that my mum gave me for Christmas about that time. And I also got, which was a re-release, but I sort of keep it for sentimental reasons really. And then I also acquired The Wild, the Innocent and the E Street Shuffle and Darkness on the Edge of Town. And as I say, there were 3 or 4 of us that just got massively into these albums. In fact, we called them the Big Five, and like we drive to, I'm just listening to the Big Five. I'd like to say we texted an email, but just didn't exist in those days. You used to have to write a letter, and that's what we used to do. When we went to various universities and colleges, we contacted each other. We got back together in the school in the college holidays. But these were the Big Five, and we just loved these albums. And then we couldn't wait for the next release. Now, if you're a Bruce Springsteen fan back in the day, they didn't come around that often, and this album came out, which was Nebraska. Now, I know that this is a classic. I quite like it myself, but I don't love it like some people do. I just don't. I don't know why. I know it's spawned tribute albums like this one, which has got people like Chrissie Hynde and Crooked Fingers and Los Lobos and people like that. But I was just disappointed. I love The River. It's like a comfort album for me. It's one of those albums that I can listen to at any time. I don't think it's the absolute best Bruce Springsteen album. I'll explain what I mean by that. But if I had to go on a desert island, it's the one I'd take with me, because for quite a few years, when I went to college, I would put it on when I got there, and it was like being with an old friend. Or as soon as the Ties That Bind chimed in, dun, 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 da, 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 it was just great, really comforting. And then when I left home and got a job and was on my own down south, so when Nebraska came out, it was so low key. I just didn't enjoy it the same way, and I've never been able to love it for that reason, really. A few years went by, and then Born in the USA came out. Again, I've got 2 copies of that. This is the one that I bought on the day of release, and that's an American one which I picked up. It's not really different. I can't stand it when people think of Bruce Springsteen as being only born in the USA. All this sort of tub thumping and punching the air. you know, born in the US and all this business, because they completely missed the song. The point of the song, it's about it's like those people that like Born in the USA, but I don't love it. Then a couple of years in, what year was this? Would this be? This would be 1986. If I can just raise this out. He released this mammoth box set of live stuff. Now he's done 3 or 4 live offerings. This isn't the best one. It's a really good compilation. I really like it, but it's not the best. This time Bruce got married, and in 88, I think it was, 87, end of 87, he released this. This is an outstanding album. This was in my top 3 favourite albums. He was clearly going through a lot of turmoil at the time. It's actually dedicated to his first wife, Julianne. But I could listen to this any time, and I never understand why people, when a new album comes out, say, "Oh, back to the best" or whatever. I can never tell until a year, 2 years later whether I really feel that way about an album. But this was Bruce changing. Then all hell let loose a couple of years later because he disbanded the E Street Band and decided to do something completely different. Now, a lot of people criticised him at the time. Apparently the band members weren't happy about it. But I understand it. I mean, I've had jobs where I've just needed a change, and I think when your job is music and you want to explore things artistically, then it's okay to do that. But what he did was a very strange thing, because the next album that came out in 1992 was not 1, but 2 albums, which beforehand seemed like a bit of a rip-off. But when you do listen to them, Human Touch is a studio-based album which made over a long period of time, and quite a few people criticised this. It got 5 stars in Q magazine at the time, but they criticised it. But I think it's got good songs on it. I mean, I wish I were blind. What other songs are on there? Gloria's Eyes, Roll of the Dice, which is a great song, but it's clearly a studio album. The other one was Lucky Town. And I think this is a fantastic album. It only got 4 stars in Q magazine at the time, and it hangs together better than Human Touch in my mind, and it's got some great songs on there. And 2 of my favourites are Book of Dreams and If I Should Fall Behind. Then he went on the road with a new band, which again, to some people's heresy. I went to see them at Wembley again, I think, and a few years later, about the same time actually, when was it? It would be December the 15th, 1992. He brought out, he did a sort of a plugged thing on MTV when they used to do that unplugged. Well, Bruce did plugged, and he had the same band, and it had got, I can actually read out the band. It was Zachary Alford, Roy Bitton, Shane Fontaine, guitarist, Tony Sims, Crystal Taliaferro, Ciambatti. It's okay, it's quite a rare album this is now. Then in 1993 he released the first of, I think there's at least 2 greatest hits albums that Bruce has got. It's okay, I don't like greatest hits albums, but I'm sort of a completist, so I had to have that. 1995 we move on to, and the Ghost of Tom Joad. Now this is often compared to Nebraska. I went to see him, I was lucky enough to get tickets, and it was a really strange tour because it was just Bruce on his own with all his guitars around him, and he was really touchy. You know, anybody spoke in the crowd, he'd have a bit of a go at them, especially with people sitting at the front, because he always knows that they're people who've got tickets by often nefarious means. But this album really made me think, and it's obviously the title character is from Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, and I went through a phase of reading American literature as a consequence. So, you know, and I read The Grapes of Wrath, which I learnt a lot about America that I didn't realise in the sort of Depression era. I don't love the book, but it really changed my view on certain things. And that came out in '95. Now everybody that's a Bruce fan knows that he is a prolific studio artist, and everybody always knew that there was a lot of stuff in the archives that hadn't been released. And in 1998, this came out. This has got to be the best box set ever, bar none, produced by anybody. It's called Tracks. It's got some, I can't remember how many tracks, 66 songs. None of them previously released in the forms that they're on here. There's also a CD which I've got, which is a short and abridged version, and there's a vinyl album which is very, very rare and really hard to get, and it's sort of on my hit list to try and acquire one day. But this, when you look at the things that Bob Dylan's rolled out and sold to people in the interest of, you know, completism, there's nothing. If you only buy one box set ever, it has to be this, because I just think it is so good. And it contains many, many tracks from the outtakes of when Bruce was making The River. So again, like songs which would just be straight away on somebody else's, like Be True. That is a fantastic song. And Bruce's outtakes are better than the vast majority of other people's normal stuff. So that was that. Now, I've already covered 2 Bruce live albums, and in 2001, or I think it was about 2000 actually, everybody's dreams came true because he reformed the E Street Band and went out on tour, and Miami Steve was back in the band, and it was fantastic. And this is the best Bruce live album, bar none. It's in 3 LP form. Again, this is quite rare. I've also got it on CD, and it's got one of my favourite songs on, Land of Hope and Dreams, which has finally made it onto vinyl last year, earlier this year. That's a fantastic album. Then, at the end of 2001, there was 9/11, and that was shocking worldwide. And Bruce often does do albums in response to events, and he came out with this album, which is an absolute classic. This is The Rising. I went to see Bruce on the Rising tour. I don't buy bootlegs normally, I'm not a fan of bootlegs, but I got this one because I was actually at this concert, which was on the 22nd of October 2002. And it's got some brilliant tracks on it. I mean, Nothing Man, it is, this is comparable to the best things that he's written throughout his career. The thing with Bruce is he does often then explore other areas, and he, if you just bear with me, he then went back to his sort of more sparse stuff, and unfortunately the reason I didn't make this video is I was hoping to acquire a copy of this album. This is Devils and Dust, and it's a gap in my collection. I quite like that one, and that was a tour I missed. I just couldn't get tickets for that one. It's the only one I've missed since 1985. So sooner or later I will buy Devils and Dust on vinyl, but when I steel myself for the sort of like £100 price tag. The thing with Bruce, he goes off at tangents, as I've said, all over the place. And I'm trying to remember what year this came out. Oh yes, and we then had the 30th anniversary box set of Born to Run, and it's got concerts in there. It's not bad. I've got that for completism really. Then in 2006, this came out. Again, a new Bruce band. A lot of people like it. It's classics for Pete Seeger songs really. I've listened to it. I saw him on tour, but it's just a bit fiddly diddly for me. I'm not a fan of it. It's okay. Bruce never does anything bad, so you can't say that he does. But it's not my favourite album. Then he brought out a live album of that as well, which I've got. It's not on vinyl, I don't think. That was live in Dublin. So he then, again, as a Bruce fan, you get used to not seeing Bruce albums come around very often. But I don't know what it is to do with his age. Once he's got into his 60s, he just seems to be in a massively rich vein of form. Now, he brought this out in 2007. Again, a lot of his albums always seem to come out in October. Don't know why that might be. But it's actually produced by Brendan O'Brien, and I don't know whether he's behind sort of encouraging Bruce, or whether Bruce is thinking, well, we only have a certain amount of time on our hands. So there was that one, and then only 2 years later, just over a year later, we get Working on a Dream, and I think they're both great albums. They are really good albums. And again, it's almost like he's in a frame of mind now where he just, you know, he's got his family have grown up, obviously he's comfortable with Patty, and he just churns these albums out. His worst albums are better than anybody else's. Again, I'm to refer to my laptop here. In 2010, Bruce then released what I thought was a remarkable project, and he did a box. It was all based around Darkness on the Edge of Town, and he remastered Darkness on the Edge of Town, and he produced videos of the making of Darkness, and this package came out, which is basically a facsimile of the book that Bruce would have written songs in, with a copy of The Promise, which is like outtakes from that time. It's like an album that was never released, and it's firmly from sort of the 1978. But I just think, and again it came out, and I've got it on CD as well, further in the car. But three sides of vinyl, absolutely brilliant album this is. To think that he was producing this, and none of these could really find their way onto an album. And there's things like Spanish Eyes on there, and his version of Because the Night, and there's quite an amusing song, and I can't, let me find it now, can't find it. Ain't Good Enough For You was a single, and the DJs in this country have commented about it wasn't great, and it was like a comedy record. You know, they just didn't have a clue what goes off in the E Street Band, to my mind. But this is just a fantastic thing to have. And then earlier this year we got this, which is Bruce's response to his record Wrecking Ball, which is also a title of a Neil Young song, and it came out as Bruce's response to the Depression. It's very hard-hitting lyrics. What he wants to do to the bankers of this world doesn't really bear thinking about. And then we saw him in the summer, and I did a video about that earlier. I've never seen Bruce in such great form. It was it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. I was in a foul mood when it went. If you look at my video, you'll realise why. We missed the first 4 songs, but then it was just a brilliant concert. And by the end of it, I was floating. Some people have raved about this album. I might think that. I think the rapping bit in the middle of it is a mistake. I don't like it, but overall it's a good album. And as you can tell by now, I am a massive Bruce Springsteen fan. I don't miss any tours if I can. I buy everything. I've got multiple copies on CD. I've bought these Japanese things. Never play them. You know, there's no other artist I reserve for wasting this amount of money by buying multiple copies of the same album, except Bruce. I've acquired extra things that he's put out over the years, like this bootleg, which has got the live version of Santa Claus Is Coming to Town, which coincidentally Rob sent me a copy of today. There's a 12-inch singles box set with a 7-inch single in, and a poster. I've got 12-inch singles here. I've bought associated albums, so I've got all Patty Skelfer's albums. I've got a whole shelf full of Southside Johnny and Miami Steve, and whole shelves of Miami Steve's vinyl albums. But I just wanted to show that vinyl collection. There are 2 albums that I want to get now. One is the tracks on vinyl, and one is Devils and Dust. But hope you enjoyed that VC, and take care. This is a bit of a postscript to the video you've just watched. I watched through the footage again when I was editing it, and I realised that I hadn't actually emphasised which was my absolute favourite Bruce Springsteen album, which is something I'd intended to do, and I was somewhat hesitant in some of the delivery when I was talking about it, because you'll appreciate these things aren't scripted. I'd been thinking about it for quite some time, but that is, to me, that is the charm of the VC, that these are not slick television programmes or anything like that. So, but rather than go through the whole thing again and shoot it all again, I thought I would just do this little, as I say, bit of a postscript, if you like. And as I made clear in the video, this album, The River, is the one that means the most to me. I love it, but it's a bit like, if you're fortunate enough to have a partner, you probably have realised after a period of time that that person's not the most beautiful person in the world. They might be close, but there's always going to be somebody out there that just pushes over the line earlier. But for me, this album is the one that I would take on a desert island because of the memories, etc, etc. But the one which I love the most, the one that I think the best collection of songs, I didn't make clear in the video, and I just wanted that to be made clear, really. And it's this one. It's Darkness on the Edge of Town. It doesn't have a bad song on it. The thing that astonishes me is that this was made in 1978. It was Bruce's fourth album, and it was after a 3-year hiatus after Born to Run, which I think probably is his acknowledged classic, if you like. But this is the one that does it for me more than any other. And so I didn't emphasise this in the video, that when The Promise came out and the making of Darkness on the Edge of Town, that is like treasure trove. I thought it was such a brilliant collection of songs, and goes to show the quality of the writing, that it's absolutely no wonder that after the best part of 40 years, we're still going to live concerts and belting it. And I love it when The Promised Land comes on, and yes, I don't know, Badlands, just those songs for me. But it's a wide-ranging album. It's got Factory and Darkness on the Edge of Town and Prove It All Night. I think it's complete, it's rounded, it's got great balance, you know, there's just not a bad song on it. So if you were only to ever buy one Bruce Springsteen album, don't make it Born in the USA, and make it this. So I just wanted to leave that with you. So take care, VC, and have a great weekend.